what do I want to do to continue this momentum that's play? It's beautiful. Instead of like taking a step back, let me take one more step further. Do you know what I mean? To like keep pushing it along, not pushing as in a forceful way, but in a beautiful, elevated, volunteering, playful manner where that's the highest energy there is, man. Like, because now what I'm doing is out of love, it's out of like care, it's out of service to humanity, it's a contribution. And in that state, I just noticed from my own experience with myself, when I'm creating out of play, love, contribution, the connections that come along, like I do nothing, and the highest and best people they just show up.
You know what my hack is, and I love that, by the way. I mean, I completely agree. The creating from that space of beingness is I mean, that's gold. I think that's the magic behind it all, right?
100%.
That's where creativity, that's where vision comes from. And at the end of the day, I choose to call it magic, man. I live in a world full of magic.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like the right people come along, and you start create connections, and these connections turn into bonds, and it just makes everything better. Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the SEO Pulse Podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We have another beautiful episode of the Mindset Monday series with my co-host, Justin Thorstad.
Yeah, bring it today. Yeah. Love it.
You like that exit?
I do.
It's pretty smooth.
That's great.
Let's talk today about the 3 elements of success: creation, connection, and contribution, and how Justin is fucking them up.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. So all right. We walk in this morning, and we're going back and forth as to like, and we're diving right in, obviously, right? But we're going back and forth as to, okay, what are we, what should we go over today? What should we talk about? How should we put ourselves on the spot? And you volunteered very graciously for it. And you're talking about awareness, and you're talking about, some stuff that we've talked about in the podcast before. And we started going down the route of self-sabotage and how, even though we have the awareness of these things, we forget, right, to stay on top of things. So just because we've read the book and we have the context, in our minds, it doesn't mean that we don't go through the process of having to fine tune it and then revisit stuff on a regular basis, right?
Exactly. And so, we learn something through whatever modality.
Yeah.
And then we implement it, we adapt it, we experience the concept, right? So we truly understand. And I'll just speak for myself. Like in this specific situation that we're going to talk about, it's like the ego can kick in because it ain't going nowhere. Like you're not eradicating that, right?
Right.
Like, so you have it still to some degree. I don't care how elevated you are. But what happens is, at least for me, it's like, okay, I learned that, I experienced it, I understand it, and I'm not going to do that again. And then you stop paying attention to that element that caused the shit show. And since you stop paying attention to it, you go unaware, and it can slip right back in. Yeah. And now it may be a couple of years, but nonetheless, you're going to find yourself back in that situation.
I mean, I think that's why we call it a mindset practice.
Totally.
We practice, right? It's always a practice. We never get it. I mean, I don't know. Monks even, say it, right? They go become monks, and then they're monks for 10, 15 years, and then they slip.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
There's only one person that didn't slip. Jesus Christ. To reach Christ consciousness, right?
Yeah.
That ain't happening, so here we are.
Yeah. So let's break it down, okay? And this is I feel like this episode is going to be almost a I don't know, not necessarily putting you on the spot or anything, but just a series of questions of like what you're going through right now, how we can recognize it first off, and then what we can do about it, right? And then come above it, which is the ultimate ideal situation, right?
100%.
So with that being said, if I'm gonna go on a sideline here, but if you're listening to the podcast and whatnot, and you figure like, okay, like, man, sometimes I feel like back on square one, and I have, I didn't make any progress. Check yourself. Think about the person that you were 3 years ago. Think about, the person that you were 5 years ago, right? And how the stuff that you're doing right now, it's probably something that you were dreaming about back then, or it's, things that you were not even, sure that you could accomplish, as you went through your process. With that being said, it's a process. Everything, it's a process. It's a practice. And sometimes we have to come back to that, to that space of awareness to kick it off again. So you walk in this morning, and I told you I have a couple of ideas, about some stuff that we can go over, and then you're like, I have, this thing with awareness right now. Elaborate.
Yeah. So I have 10 businesses, and 2 of them right now.
Bro, you turned into me.
I know. I already did, unfortunately. So.
Remember all the teasing, all the bullying?
Yeah, it was so much fun. How the tables have turned.
Yeah.
So, 2 businesses related, they all are, but I've been putting in a tremendous amount of energy, attention, time, effort for the last nearly 2 years. And one of them was already established, doing great. And within the last 6 months, I've noticed that my results just plain out suck. Like, across the board in every way, it's just not what it used to be.
Yeah.
The results are down. And, as the owner, I look at that as, well, clearly that's my result. And there's only one common denominator, it's me. And so, I'm just in resistance. I'm angry, I'm irritated about the situation. And, that becomes like a filter in which I view everything, that there's something to be irritated about. I'm in resistance to these results because I don't like them. They've fallen from where they were. And what the hell? So, it's easy to point the finger and blame people, situations, circumstances, everything external, right? And so naturally I go to, well, I'll just work harder, put in more hours, I'll turn this ship around. And I've been here before, right?
Yeah.
So I'm putting in this effort and just kind of grinding, man, which is something I don't subscribe to. I don't enjoy it. And the worst part of all about that additional effort is that means that 100% of what I'm doing is tasky things that could be delegated to different who's that know a better how, process than me. And they produce a better result because they enjoy doing that stuff, where I hate it. So I'm too busy having to take care of all of these tasks and things and fulfillments, or else, there's going to be severe negative consequences. And so if I'm doing those things, that means I'm not doing the one thing that I really enjoy doing. That action itself is fulfilling. I get energy from doing it. I lose track of time, and I'm really good at it, and I produce amazing results through it. There's creation.
Yeah.
And I'm too busy to do that. And so not being in my lane, exercising my unique abilities, like, it's soul-sucking.
Yeah.
And I'm just working all day, all night, and having to sacrifice, which I don't enjoy, other aspects of my life in order to fulfill obligations and things that are necessary. Like, when you're the CEO, at the end of the day, like, the buck stops at me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm responsible.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
I'll be damned if I'm going to fail or throw in the towel and quit. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that, man. And I feel like sometimes it can be, it can be something that slowly gets out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I don't know, you lose somebody who's, I don't know, say that you lose your personal assistant.
Yeah.
And your personal assistant was, checking your emails or doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now, okay, you got to handle that for the time being. But then, something else happens, and then, okay, now you're maybe a new process or something like that. You open, for example, I'm seeing this in different areas because we'll open up different markets, right? Then there's a different protocol for a different market that my transaction coordinator doesn't know yet. Right. So, okay, that's one thing I got to get into. And this is like getting back in the trench and then working the thing, right? Figuring it out. But if we get caught in that cycle and we spend a lot of time in there, next thing you know is like they can't do it without us. And it's easy to forget that we're in the creating mode, as opposed to in the operator and technician, role.
Well,
so.
And to make matters worse, like I desire for all my businesses for me to be the business owner, not the business operator. And so if I'm in the trenches and I'm doing the things, because something's got to adapt, evolve, whatever, like it's outdated, it's antiquated,
Yeah.
you got to get in there and fix it, right? I don't mind that to a degree. But when I find myself doing that all day, every day, 7 days a week, 16, 18 hours a day,
Yeah.
I don't like that for an extended period of time. Like I'll do whatever it takes, whatever's necessary and required of me. But there's got to be a limit to where instead of empowering my people, I'm enabling them. Like you said, right?
Yeah.
If you get in the trenches, pretty soon they're relying upon you. And so finding that tipping point where it's like, okay, I've supported you, go, and empower them again. Because otherwise you keep doing it and you're teaching them not to.
Well, it's that, but it's also accountability, I think, for the team, right? We have to hold them accountable for the stuff that we the roles that we set up for them.
Sure.
That's one thing. Now, accountability, like usually when we think of accountability, like I'm thinking about keeping you accountable. What about our own accountability?
Yeah.
What about, for example, this is where the buck stops. If I'm spending 4 hours a day on tasky stuff, like there has to be somebody that I need to hire for this. Or going back to something that just kind of resets that threshold and puts you back on your highest and best, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest role for us as entrepreneurs and business owners, right? It's going back to that space of what's my highest and best, and that's something that's always going to be changing.
Yeah.
If your highest and best today, this morning, is to look at this specific deal and get it through the finish line, I mean, it is what it is, right? It might be that maybe somebody called in sick or something, but that turns into your hassle. You take it and you assume it. That's your highest and best, right? Boom, move the needle. But that's going to change. It may not be the thing tomorrow, right? So I feel like that's where we have to become conscientious and plug in, right? The right people, the right connections, right? Into that entire process and start building things out so we can taper out from it. Now, you said something pretty interesting. I've been here before.
Sure.
And I think it's empowering to an entrepreneur to think that way, but it's also a crutch.
Well, I got to tell you. So, speaking of accountability, like I started meeting with my executive admin on a weekly basis, not just to keep her on track, but for her to keep me on track.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is my to-do list on track? And if I'm not accountable to anybody, I could forget things. I could get to it later. You know what I mean? Like there's so much to do. And so it's really been serving. But what I mean by I've been here before is this situation, and you're right about that, like erosion of people or systems or whatever the case is. That's exactly what's happened over the last 6 months, slowly. And at first you see a little erosion. You're like, no big deal. It's the natural flow of things. But then all of a sudden, like it's out of hand. And so, results are down and financially, morale, count, of people, just, man, across the board. And so being upset about that, like, it's a biased perspective, and all you can see is what's in alignment with that resistance.
Right.
Like, this shouldn't be the way it is. And, hey, when it hurts your pocketbook and your bank account too, like, you start paying attention, right? And so being pissed off and disgruntled now for a while, it hit me. It's like, wait a minute. Like, because the thought running in the background is, this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here. I've already accomplished X, and now I've receded quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in resistance to this happening, and I shouldn't be here. It's like, there it is. That's the awareness. Like, wait a minute. Why am I feeling this way? Of course I'm supposed to be here. Of course I'm supposed to be experiencing this. How do we know that? Because that's where I am, and that's what I'm experiencing. And so,
interestingly enough, we talk about that stuff all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes you're the last one to see what is, And so, when I had that realization, though, man, like all the stress, the tension melted away.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's the truth, right? I'm where I'm at because that's where I'm supposed to be. And like, that's the truth. And at first, the truth will piss you off, and then it'll set you free. So like all of that tension and resistance melted away instantly. And I'm like, oh, man, that feels pretty good. So there must be something here for me to learn that I didn't learn last time. That's why I've come back around to re-experience it, to objectively learn the lesson and transcend this so I can deal with different problems. because you're always going to be dealing with problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the difference is people that react to life problems, or are you going to create an elevated problem you get to go solve? Because that's exciting.
That's and I'm gonna throw a curveball here at you. Sometimes it can also be, self-sabotage. I mean, we go into this stage of self-sabotage.
Sure.
Right. It's and not that it's intentional, but it can be falling back into old habits for some reason. For example, things are humming, right? Boom, boom, boom. It's like, oh, okay. Instead of, I'm okay not working, or not, I don't know, stepping back from the business 4 days a week, 3 days a week, or something,
and enjoying the rewards.
Exactly. So getting into that space of comfort a little too much sometimes. And I'm not saying that's what you did.
I feel so attacked right now.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's what you did.
That's exactly it. I do that actually.
So, but it can be old habits. So it's not necessarily something that we haven't learned in the past. It can also be a trigger, right? So we may have all the information, all the relevant new information, and all the stuff that can help us with the information, right? But if we slip a little bit and fall into an old habit that in previous times was holding us back, guess what it's gonna do now? It's gonna hold us back
Dude,
again, right?
Okay, so here again, this shows the real and the raw, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had this awareness about being where I am, because that's where I'm supposed to be, last night, actually really late too, and I decided to journal about it. I wanted to just flush it all out because it felt good. And sure as shit, I go into the office this morning, first appointment with a business partner in a different business, and before I walk through the door, he sends me this video collage of a trip we took to Cozumel, I don't know, Cancun, Tulum, I don't know. It was a couple different places. I know those are different far apart, but whatever. And it was pictures of all the things that we did there for a week. And I was like, man, that was only 2 years ago. And I took 10 vacations that year, long, nice vacations, and never worried about anything, never looked at price tags. Life was great. And I wasn't working at all. And so that's my self-sabotage, right? When something is humming and it's running, I'm like, oh, cool, now I can take a step back.
Yeah.
And that stems from I'm working and building businesses, assets to pay me so I don't have to work.
Yeah.
Now, I enjoy doing what I do, which is play, and that's coaching, right? That's not work to me. But I can tend to get a bit complacent and casual and take my foot off the gas. And I mean that metaphorically, because I stop paying attention to what's working and just keep some energy on it to maintain momentum.
Yeah.
I take a step back and I'm like, oh, I can relax now. And then, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm the one on the roller coaster. I can choose to get off. But anyways, and so perhaps that's
We're
the lesson.
the power behind the roller coaster.
Oh, 100%.
We're building the track.
Yeah. As we go, So, and perhaps that's it. It's for me to reset a goal as I'm starting to build momentum, and I can see that I'm going to hit my 100%, right? And that trajectory is going. Instead of taking a step back because it's going to get there, and I know it is, and it does. Okay, what's next? What do I want to do to continue this momentum that's play? It's beautiful. Instead of taking a step back, let me take one more step further. Do you know what I mean? To keep pushing it along, not pushing as in a forceful way, but in a beautiful, elevated, volunteering, playful manner where that's the highest energy there is, man. Because now what I'm doing is out of love, it's out of care, it's out of service to humanity, it's a contribution. And in that state, I just noticed from my own experience with myself, when I'm creating out of play, love, contribution, the connections that come along, I do nothing, and the highest and best people they just show up.
You know what my hack is, and I love that, by the way. I mean, I completely agree. The creating from that space of beingness is that's gold. I think that's the magic behind it all, right? 100%. That's where creativity, that's where vision comes from. And at the end of the day, I choose to call it magic, man. I live in a world full of magic. And you're right. The right people come along, and you start create connections, and these connections turn into bonds, and it just makes everything better. What I've seen, in myself in the past is sometimes I'll be humming and I'll be, boom, 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 getting something. And I start getting into this space of, I feel it's almost complacency, man, but it's not, and it pisses me off too. It does. It pisses me off because I'm
you feel it.
I'm okay. and then I'll kind of let my foot off the gas for a little bit, and then 2 weeks later I'll be pissed off that I let my foot off the gas. So I know how I behave. I did a whole study on myself. It lasted. I spent about 6-8 months just going through my emotional cycles. And it's all mapped up. So I know exactly, like, if I'm feeling this way right now and I do this in a matter of a week, I'm gonna be feeling this thing. So it's almost like predicting myself, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something everybody should do.
Dude, there's nothing greater to study and invest than in yourself.
To be aware of ourselves, how we react. Okay, if I do this, how am I gonna be feeling tomorrow?
Insight.
What is gonna be my thought process in 2 days, 3 days, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
If I make this decision right now and I'm not 100% sure about it, what's it gonna be? So for example, I have something big that's coming. I'll put it on I'll dissect it, break it down, and before pulling the trigger on something, I'll wait 3 days. I just wait for it to kind of like settle down, my emotions to settle down, that emotional intelligence kicks in, and then I'll make a more educated, of course, if it's objective decision. If it's a business thing, if it's not something that's not burning, right? So anyways, but one thing that I did, I started to recognize my own pattern. For example, I did this on my first flip. I would get I got to a couple of deals. This is before I started, doing rehabs and stuff like that. To me, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I'm gonna rehab a property. This is
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's scary. And I would get to the point of underwriting the properties, looking at the properties, and then going, even talking to escrow and all that stuff. It was like, oh no, I'm gonna cancel it. I would pull the trigger to get cold feet, right? And I did that a couple of times. It's like, why? Everything makes sense, but I feel like that's where my threshold is at. Like that's where my threshold for comfort, for risk, for at that point, that's where it was, right?
On paper.
Yeah, exactly. So I would get to this point where I just couldn't, I couldn't break through that next next level or that next step. I couldn't break through it.
Just so I understand what you're saying, you'd analyze, underwrite.
Yeah, I would take the steps
on paper, like it's a deal, but then you'd back off.
Yeah.
Like before actually committing to completing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's. And I'm afraid of the unknown, call it what you may, right? But there was, and I think a lot of it was just irrational stuff that was going through my head.
Of course.
And then I would just like, oh, you know what? I don't need that headache right now. You know what I mean? I would just I would downplay and justify it and then just, do whatever, right? And ignore it. And then, oh, the deal's gone. Now I don't have to worry about it. So I would
fucked up, man.
justify, I would justify the heck out of me not taking, not taking those, not putting myself in that next level.
Sure.
So what I did, like after it happened a couple of times, I saw a pattern. I was like, oh shit, I'm doing it. But then it comes back to that space of awareness. What are we doing? And we're not gonna bullshit ourselves, guys. Like, have an honest conversation with you. Like, how are you self-sabotaging? How are you creating that, that stoppage in your momentum, and yourself, just extending, that point of success that you want to get to. There's nobody else. Like, you know that picture where the Spider-Mans are like, he did it. Have you seen that meme?
No.
There's like 3 or 4 Spider-Mans, like dudes dressed up as Spider-Man. It's the same dude, right? Like, but he's like, oh, it's his fault. Like at the end of the day, it's all Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so like, yeah, it's you. Like you are the epicenter of the entire thing. So hold on, let me. So I would do that, and I saw it after a couple of times. Like, no, I need something else, and it's not like I figure out I'm the problem. I'm the issue here. I need to do something there that just forces me to pull through. And I did the exact same thing. When I have to be I know that when I'm accountable, bro, like I'll
show up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll show up tenfold for somebody else than the way that I was showing up for myself. I mean, now I switch it, right? I mean, I don't switch it. I just, up my showing up for myself. Yeah. But it's I wasn't doing that back then. Like, so what I did, I put somebody else in there. We started, having conversations. We came in, we did I connected with somebody else, and they were part of that flip. So now we're doing this, and I felt like I had some support. It wasn't really. I ended up doing everything, but that was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, because for me, it's like if I'm in startup mode, or things are just in dire, situations, and it's like sink or swim. Like it's either you're gonna win or you're gonna fail right now.
Right.
Like I don't need accountability from anybody because I'm accountable to me. And man, I'm one of the most committed motherfuckers that you'll ever meet. But now here's the problem. So I get all in, and I'm committed until you kill me. Like I'm going to make it win. However, as I start building momentum and it starts winning, I don't need accountability. Look what I just did.
Yeah.
Like how are you going to hold me accountable?
Yeah.
That's the flaw, because that's what's going to maintain momentum or help me delegate and relinquish control. Because when I don't need, when I'm accountable to me, like I'll stake my life on it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
Committed. And so that works to get things going. But if I don't want to be the one moving the ball down the field, right, I got to still inspect, I got to still have conversations, give accountability, and I got to have accountability to do that when it's no longer sink or swim mode.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the short-sightedness of like, I got to save me from myself.
Yeah.
When it's not dire situation, sink or swim, do or die. So that's good, man. I just had that awareness, by the way. That based on what you said
right now.
Yeah.
That's what's really cool and beautiful about having these conversations. It's happening right now, guys.
Yeah.
No. So, but yeah, I think we come to an understanding of ourselves. We come to an understanding of what, we have an idea of what we need to do, and I think we have a lot of information and stuff like that. Inevitably, right, as we go through the journey, there's gonna be we're built off of patterns. Everything in our psychology is made from patterns. Every time we try to reinvent ourselves, we're reinventing mental patterns.
100%.
So don't be surprised, right, if we get drawn back into some of those subconscious behaviors, because it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. But I think that's so beautiful, and I think most people get upset about that. So we're driven off of patterns, right? And people oftentimes don't look at how wonderful and beautiful that is. Think about it. You don't want to pay attention to your pattern because let's say this specific pattern doesn't cause good results. In fact, it causes poor results that you don't like. So you don't want to own that as a result. So therefore, you don't want to pay attention to the pattern, but you're missing it. Because the beautiful part is, if you realize how successful your brain is at running the pattern and producing the result in alignment with it, with 100% success, whether you're thinking about it or not, it's unconscious, it just happens. That should be so exciting to you. Like, that should be the most profound thing you hear all day, probably for your whole entire year. Because that means then, whatever I impress and reframe into my mind, I must be successful at it. So the question just becomes, what is it that I'm successful at creating, even if I don't like what I created?
And is it good or bad? Are you creating good habits or are you creating bad habits? Because they are going to run your responses.
And so a lot of people, right, like, is it good or is it bad? Is it right or is it wrong? It's like, that's the way to look at it. Totally, 100%. But more specifically, I suggest people look at it as, is my pattern working for me to get what I want? Because that's just a simple yes or no. Because if it's bad or if it's wrong, people have some kind of weird relationship with themselves if they're bad or wrong, and they tend to further avoid that, right? Because they want to feel good about themselves and they want to be right. Wrong.
I see it,
Like, just simply, is it
working? Does it work? Does it not work?
Yeah, like get the emotional charge off of it so you can become neutral and therefore objective and see things for what they are instead of seeing things how you are. You know what I mean? That biased lens.
Yeah, and understand too, like, it's perfectly okay to have that awareness and have those points of reset, right? Like, for example, right now you're going through it, and it's a point of reset. It's just a reset. It's not you're starting from zero. It's not like nothing like that, right? But we have
those. It could feel like it. But it's not.
It may trigger some emotions that way, but it's a completely different scenario. I mean, you're it's like a refresher on the information, on the awareness, and all that stuff that you already have.
Totally,
right, within your operating.
You stop being a little girl about it, because there are people that would love to have this problem that I'm complaining about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, stop it. So, but I mean, man.
So what are you going to do about it?
It's also well, exactly, right? So that's what I want to say is that awareness is important because nothing changes without awareness, right? Okay. But awareness in and of itself is not the end. Like, I can't go to Starbucks and be like, hey, can I get my usual? That's $5.74. Great. I had this awareness today. Can I use that to pay for my coffee? Like, what? Like, you got to do something. Yeah. And man, I'm all about action. Like, to stay idle is weird. Like, it just doesn't exist. So I'm going to create some processes, people, to hold me accountable so that I have to check in and talk about these things and the action steps and what I'm going to do to save me from myself.
Right, there you go. And I think that's a key phrase, right? What are you going to do to save you from yourself? We all have the awareness and the knowledge of what we need to do to and it may be different for different people, right?
Well, and some pragmatic things.
Yeah.
So if there's something I need to remember, dude, I'll just get a dry erase marker and I'll write it on my bathroom mirror because I'm looking at that more than 2 times a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it reminds me, and if I forget, don't worry, it's going to be there. But also, if there are action steps, like I'm going to do this much of this on these days and whatever, like I just have a simple piece of paper and I write them down, map it out. So every single morning, I look at that thing on the bathroom mirror. I remind myself of what I'm doing today. And then at the end of the day, when I go to brush my teeth again, like I get to see my mantra again, my truth, and I get to check off what I actually did so I can track it, measure it, and make adjustments.
Yeah, it's going to be on there. Just for thought, one of the things that's helping me out the most right now, it's training my team. So actually jumping on Zoom calls, recording the processes and all that. You know, if I know how to do something, and this is how I'm doing it, just building SOPs, but this is how I do it. I'll create a draft. Okay, this is how we go off of this thing. We record the entire thing. My team takes it, they clean it up. Right now they have a process, a training protocol. Once it's clean, once we've kind of debugged it, and usually to an 80%, it's never going to be perfect because shit changes. Yeah. But if 80% is good for to deploy, right, and keep it, adopt it as an SOP. That's my protocol there. So once we have that, I take it and I create flowcharts, and then on that, once you have an imagery of the steps to take for any particular thing, right? For example, think about a probate process. Think about opening escrow. Think about, I don't know, how this is how you address a seller. This is whatever the thing is, right? You are going to have action steps to it. When you have action steps to it, 1, you're clarifying it for yourself. 2, you're empowering everybody else that comes in. 3, if somebody leaves, you're able to plug somebody else real quick.
You gotta have a playbook.
Yeah, you gotta have a playbook. Plug somebody else real quick, and then if anything, you lose a step, not the whole race. You know what I mean? So,
well, what I love about that, and you're really good at that too, man. Sometimes I just need the cue to remind me of something. So, for example, when I first started coaching realtors, as an example, it was kind of like, what's your problem? What do you mean, like, you don't understand? Like, go just do it. I told you the concept, right? Yeah. And it's like Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players of all time, right? Okay. He tried coaching, and he was shitty. He didn't know how to synthesize the magic sauce, right?
It's all in here.
Yeah, it was just second nature.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the key. If you're a really great technician and you just create incredible results, like, can you break it down into bite-sized, actionable steps for others to follow and duplicate your success? Because if not, like, you might be great, but you kind of suck, right? Because nobody can follow in your footsteps, and that's not duplicatable.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think you're doing yourself and your team a disservice by that.
Oh, totally. Well, you're keeping yourself in a position where you're like, you can't be replaced.
Yeah.
Well, there could be some value in that if you're a technician. If you're a leader, leaders create results through others. So you better have a process for them to win.
Yep.
So I've documented all this in guides and so forth, but something you just said was like, yeah, I could actually create a visual workflow, and I bet in that process more things are going to be fleshed out. And that to me is exciting. Dude. So thanks for the idea.
You are very welcome.
Yeah.
Don't forget to use the talent that we have. Like, there's a lot of talent within our own teams.
Oh, dude.
There's so much talent.
Well, and if you don't talk about your shortcomings and where you suck and where you have a problem, and people don't do that because they're like, oh, if you know that I've got this problem, then you're going to know what I know, and that's I suck, and you're not going to like me, you're not going to want to do business with me, and you're going to leave, right? It's like, that's so stupid, but a lot of people do it, right? And like, it takes courage, but it's also wise to talk about your shortcomings, your blind spots, if you're aware of them, because that's when you get more information. You get action steps, you get more awareness, a deeper awareness, so you can do something about it. But if you're never opening your mouth, you're just going to continue to suck. Yeah,
there you go. So start with the awareness, kick that off, and then, that's a point of beginning, I think, for everything, right? Yeah. It's also a point of reset.
Yeah. So you talked about the 3 elements, if you will, to success, right?
Creation, connection, and contribution.
Yeah. And let's flip those on their heads. Contribution. Like, you got to be given something. Lead with value, right? Yeah. And so a lot of people go into things, situations, relationships, networking, and they're like, what can I get from this? And it's like, why don't you flip the script and say, what can I give?
Yeah.
Now, to give something of value to somebody, what do you got to know? You got to know where they're at, what are their problems, their pain points, and how can I fill that need? See a need, fill a need, right? Yeah. Okay, well, if you want to lead with value, you're going to need connections. You're going to need people. You probably already have people that you could be contributing to. And are you growing your sphere? Are you growing your network? Because your net worth, I think, comes down to the quality of your network.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Okay. And then creation. Like, you got to start creating some desirable results. So what are you doing about it? So if you're creating results, building connections, and you're contributing, man, like, what awesome things are you not going to create? And they just unfold organically. So the really cool thing is this. I want to share one more awareness. In one of the businesses that the results aren't very great right now, some real magical things are happening, and I couldn't even see it because I was in this state of resistance and irritation. So yeah, dude, it's stupid.
Missed opportunity there.
Oh, dude, like, sometimes we're so dumb. So, so this business, like, I just somehow manifested this person, a who, that is brilliant at what I'm trying to do, and has 30 years of experience in doing this, and knows everything about it, and I don't. And so this person, I pay very little. In fact, the exchange of value has been so in my favor, and I even brought that to his attention. I'm like, listen, the scales are out of balance, and I'm not okay with that. Anyways, this man's been providing so much value and connections and people, and like, things are just coming together in a really, really big way, man. Like, a massive amount of results are going to start flooding in.
Nice.
What did I do? Nothing. But he keeps providing value. He's contributing, knowing that there's no pay, really.
Yeah.
But there could be if he provides enough value and we create results. Like, then there's a payday.
Yeah.
And like, he's doing it because that's just what he does. It's just a good human. And so many magical relationships, connections, contributions that I've received. And man, I mean, it's approaching a tipping point where the results are just going to flood in. And I wasn't taking full stock of that in my resistance, in my irritation with a different business. And it's like, man, we are our own worst enemy.
Getting tunnel vision on the bad stuff when we get overwhelmed by that emotion. Yeah.
So again, accepting like, oh, I am where I'm at,
Yeah.
and I'm supposed to be where I'm at. Why? How do I know? Because that's where I'm at. And just letting go, dropping the resistance, that awareness came in of like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for myself. I'm grateful for these relationships and connections, the contributions that I've made. Like, man, it's all beautiful, and I'm so grateful.
You know, one thing I want to throw this out there. This is something that I do on a regular basis, and I just kind of keep it to myself because it's a little woo woo.
Share.
But it's when I come across a lot of friction on anything in particular, I take that as a sign from the universe to double check, like, just like, pay closer attention to this thing, see if it's even worth it. So let's say I'm trying to start a new campaign or whatever it is. Sometimes even on routing, dude. Like, I'm driving down the road and it's like I'm trying to get to a place and like I have to get rerouted 3 times, 4 times. Like, there's a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
Of getting there. Like, I'll ask myself the question. I was like, wait, why is this going on? Like, and I don't take it. I used to get just lit up by it. Like something's not going
Road
my
rage.
way. Yeah. Something's not going my way. And road rage is one thing, but in business, for example, transactions that have been super complicated and stuff like that, and we somehow seem to hit a wall. Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. And now I take that as an omen. I take that as a
100%.
what do you call it? Just a
Gift.
notice, a clue, right? Like, okay, take a second look into this. Like, see if it's even in the right lane for you, if you're even focused. So that's the stuff that I think about now when I come across any adversity, any challenge that I'm not able to get over quickly, and I'm seeing just weird things happen to it. Sometimes the energy's off. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'll just revisit it and I'll sit with it. And I kid you not, man, I mean, 90% of the time, and not that I drop it and just quit on it, but 90% of the time I'll find something that's like, man, this was not the best course of action. I'll find a better way for it. I'll find, or pivot, it's really interesting, but I'm listening now more than ever.
Bingo.
to the universe and the
cues.
the cues that it puts in front of us.
Yeah, and
because
so
it really guides us in
does,
so many
man.
different ways.
Some people will say, "Oh, I'm being tested, and I'm going to persevere," and it's like, cool, good on you. However, like, you're also getting indicators, like if it's driving and rerouted and slow drivers and red lights. It's like it's giving you the opportunity to stop and check in. Why am I pushing? Why am I forcing? Why am I rushing? Right? Like, stop, take a minute, get objective, breathe. You know what I mean? And the same goes for business. Like, it's the same process, obstacle after obstacle after roadblock. It's like, whoa. Stop for a minute.
Yeah.
Stop continuing to push harder. Take a step back.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get my bearings here. What's going on? Like a little too tunnel focused.
Yeah. No. So this is the latest example, and I mean, and I use driving, right, as a simple, just explain.
Yeah, could you drive slow as fuck, dude?
Yeah, no. About that. But
One time,
the other day,
driving to Rocky Point. No.
I was enjoying the views.
Shit.
The cacti on the way over there. The one cacti. No, it's actually a cool scenic road when you're.
It is. Yeah.
But anyways, so the other day I was I wanted to do something with my wife, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna set up a date night. We're just gonna go out for dinner, nice place and whatnot. So I kind of I told her, I just kind of planted the seed. She was like, all right. I didn't get a lot of like, okay, like, yay,
excitement.
Let's go. Yeah, a lot of excitement back. So I went, and I'm going over, like, I couldn't make a reservation. This is on a weekday, dude. Like, reservation, the app, turned off. It came back on. I made a reservation, they approved it, and then it came back, got canceled. So it's like 3 or 4 little different things, that happened. I was like, what's going on? I was like, I can't, what if, I don't know, we get some steaks and I just, grill here at the house. We do some wine and just do an in-house and stay in. Like, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, perfect.
Why didn't you just say that? Oh, but that's a different story.
Yeah, it's different, totally different story. But you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's. I mean, I could have gotten really upset and then just forced it, and I feel like
I've never done that.
It depends. I feel like we get to this state of mind where we understand that forcing things is not always the best course of action. That testosterone
masculine
fucking result or solution is not always the best. There's a way to flow through things.
Yeah,
especially when you're centered, when you're aligned, and you're walking towards things. Like, you're gonna have a lot more clarity over the different options that you have of getting to that particular end result that you're looking for.
100%. So I'll just say it in a different way. When you hit that wall, attempting to go down the path that you thought was going to be, leading to success, and you just, boom, the wall's there. Yeah. Like, instead of trying to bust through it, why don't you just look at it as, it's pointing me to go a different direction, down a different path to lead to the highest.
Reassess it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, thank you. Yeah. But in resistance, all you see is the wall.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you don't see the good stuff around you.
Nope.
Like that other stuff that's happening in your
100%.
business. So, awesome. Good combo, dude. I like that.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, felt good too.
All right. Somebody wants to get hold of you. Where's the best place to catch you?
Yeah, JustinThorstad.com. All over social media at Justin Thorstad. YouTube, Cellphone 602-348-8534.
Fire. All right, fam, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. We just, throw everything on the grill every single week when we're here. And hope you guys join us on the next one. If you like the content that we're putting together for you guys, the conversations, if there's a specific topic that you want us to go over, it's a two-way street, right? Drop it in the comments. Let us know. It's a two-way conversation chat. So make sure to subscribe, like, and share this with somebody who you think might benefit from listening to us. And contribute, right? It's part of the success equation there. Yep. So with that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one. And stay focused. You got this. Let's go.